What's up, guys? Welcome into Packers Total Access. My name is Clayton. You can check us out on packernet.com. Find me on Twitter at Packers_access. Joined alongside Jacob in Wisconsin here to talk some Packers, talk some more prospects. It's so cool, Jacob. Every day, man, there's more information coming out on these new draft picks that are obviously in town now for the rookie mini camp, and excited to dive into all that information. We got a little bit of Jaire information. Is that starting to really pick up steam? We'll hit on that. To kind of lead off with. And I just want to full disclosure here, some real bad storms rolling through right now. So if everything just cuts off, I'll see you on the other side. All right. And I'm not talking about hour 2 either. Okay. We'll probably, we may see you on the other side. You know what I mean, Jacob? How you doing, dude?
I'm doing well. Yeah. We got a little bit of some dicey weather up here too. We were getting spoiled with like 60s and even dipping into the 70s. And now it's pretty cold. There was a little bit of like not snowing, but a little bit of kind of sleet, kind of stuff. It just wasn't great, but it's all right.
Greg Rice asking the tough questions in the chat. He says, does AFM remind anyone of the mustache cop on Reno 911?
Sure.
I immediately thought of Super Troopers. And you guys know, I went mustache, right? You guys know about that, right? You guys have never seen Super Troopers, man. God, what a movie that is. Good to see Eric in here, Uncle Eric in the house. Good to see you, buddy. Appreciate you swinging through. I know we got our buddy Rob Westerman in the house as well. Good to see him in here. United Bates, everybody filing in. Appreciate y'all making us part of your Friday evening here. Let's just waste no time, man. Let's jump into the Jaire watch. Listen, I know I'm tired of talking about it. I'm sure people are tired of hearing about it. But we got to cover it. We got to hit it to kind of bring you guys the updates on the latest there. We talked about Rob Demovsky. Seemed to think that, hey, there's probably a decent chance that he is going to return to Green Bay. Shenanigans. What's shenanigans? Is that the place with all the on the wall?
Talking about shenanigans, right? Oh.
So here's what head coach Matt LaFleur had to say about Jaire Alexander earlier today when he was simply asked, and we kind of covered this yesterday, Jacob, on the show. We kind of talked about how he wasn't at the offseason program, right? He was there for the virtual stuff, but Matt LaFleur kind of confirmed it today that he was not here. And here's exactly what Coach LaFleur had to say.
Jason warned you that this was coming, but
no, probably not.
No, he does his job well. It's my understanding Jaire is not doing the on-field stuff right now. Is that accurate?
Yep.
Is that just we're going to figure out what's going on here, and once we figure it out, then we'll move forward?
Yeah, I mean, like, to be honest with you, I don't have many updates in regards to where we are in that whole situation. I just know we're trying to work through it.
All right, so that was pretty much it from Coach LaFleur on Jaire Alexander and the situation. Now, there's been multiple people tweet out within the last several hours. And you get some people, and I'm not even going to give them the time of day to mention their name, that they'll just repeat what other people are saying as if they're breaking the news. You know what I mean? That always cracks me up. But anyway, the rumor is they have agreed on a restructured deal. Again, that hasn't come from Rob. That hasn't come from Wildy. That hasn't come from Bill Huber. That's other randos on the interwebs talking about that. So I don't want anybody to think Clayton's saying the deal's done. That's just the rumors out there on the street. And again, just because they came to an agreement doesn't mean it's signed yet either. Right? It might be one of those things that somebody backs out last second if that is the case. So, Jacob, I got to ask you. I got to get your take here. How do we feel now, man? You think Jaire is going to be a Packer or not? And explain why you're tired of talking about it too. So,
man, I knew all along that Jaire was going to be it now. This is just another puzzle piece. It is getting tiresome, and you can tell in that interview with Matt, he's over it already. Mm-hmm. Like the whole Matt, dude, blah blah blah. Yep, that was it. Just one word answer. Yep. And then you can tell he's just done talking about it. I think he's ready to play football, and he wants to put past any of this drama and stuff, and not carry anything, that had some saltiness from the last season into this season. And I can't agree with him more. I mean, I can't imagine how frustrating that must be to have a plan, a vision, wanting to turn the page and have just the start of a new fresh year, and all of a sudden you just got to deal with this same nagging question over and over and over. I hope that what we're hearing is true. I actually saw some of the same type stuff, and I think they even reported it on ESPN that there was some talks possibly in the works of hopefully that the best case scenario now was that they'd restructure and that he'd actually play. But, I'll shift my spectrum now that I'm 70-30 that Jaire stays. How about that? I wish we had Tim, the resident Jaire expert over here, because, at the end of the day, I hope he does stay. It's a better team. That cornerback room is going to be absolutely stacked if he is there at the helm, because it looks a whole lot different with a solid number one quarterback. You know what I mean?
Oh, no, it definitely does, man. And, that's the thing, too. People are like, well, he can't stay healthy. And that's kind of been my stance the whole time, is like, I understand he hasn't been healthy, but if you get him for 10 games, that's better than not having him at all. I mean, now, if you want to say you're over the antics and some of the other things that have happened with the whole captain thing and now this whole offseason talking point, I can understand that too. I relate where you're coming from. But at the end of the day, if the coaches are okay with him, the players are okay with him, the GM's okay with him, and he makes the football team better, I just don't want to be one of those fans that's going to pretend like I'm too good to have him on my team type thing, because, again, I think Jaire is a good teammate. I haven't heard one person come out and talk as if he's a bad teammate, and when he's on the field and he's healthy, he's good. He's good. I know Affin believes that Jaire is washed. He's not a number one corner anymore. So you're telling me he's not the number one corner on the Green Bay Packers roster? Because that's what a number one corner is. It's real simple. Are you a top 32 corner? That means you're a number one corner. That's how I look at that. So I think he is a number one corner. Now, if he was the number two corner team on the Packers, then, hey, awesome. That means you've got two number ones, right? Yeah. It really does. But I don't know, man. I think the team's better with him on it. And
Nobody make a move. If we all stay real quiet, maybe he won't appear. All right. Damn it. Didn't work. Oh, never mind. Man, he went away. Thanks, Tom. We just set him up for Tom. Tom Holman.
He accidentally removed himself. Hopefully he can get back in there. We had to jump in for a second. Yeah, I think Tom did flash into the chat and he just disappeared real quick. What's up? How you doing? How you doing?
I tried to leave faster than you guys brought me in just because I didn't want Jacob to have to deal with that, but I'm good. How are you?
We're doing good, man. Doing good. Elijah Tom Nabin. So we're just talking about Matt LaFleur saying, confirming what we all thought, with the pictures or lack thereof of Jaire with the offseason program there, that he is not participating on the field, but now there's rumors all over Twitter that a deal is pretty much done. Again, haven't got it confirmed by anyone that I truly trust, Emilio, but it sounds like they may be closing in on Jaire returning to the Packers to get back on the field for the offseason stuff. So what's your take on it before we move forward here, man?
I love it. I mean, my fallback this whole time was he's still under contract, so I'm completely fine with, bringing him back. If we could restructure it, cool. If not, I mean, to go out and find a corner with that talent on the market, even if you can guarantee me that corner you find is going to be healthy for 25 games, is going to be tough. And with that price just going up and up, we kind of locked him in at a good time looking back on it. But I'd say run it out.
All right. So there you go. There's your Jaire Alexander update. Professor Cake's asking the tough questions there. Anybody remember Brett Favre in the movie There's Something About Mary?
What the hell is Brett Favre doing here?
I'm in town to play the Dolphins, you dumbass.
Oh, yeah. We remember it. We remember it pretty well there, Professor Cakes. One of the all-time cameos in a movie for sure. So, anything else you guys want to hit on before we jump into a little bit of Matthew Golden talk? As he met with the media earlier today, had a sound bite I wanted to play, and then also give you guys kind of a take from his wide receiver coach, which has a Green Bay Packers tie. Kind of cool. Go ahead, Jacob. What you got?
Nothing. United Bay's just, how'd you get Frank above the beans? If you know, you know. I will say, shout out to Terry, my man Terry. Somebody for like the second or third time in our PTA podcast career, somebody recognized us and gave us a shout out. I should say they gave me, Tim, and Clayton a shout out. They left out a certain person. I'm not going to say who.
Uh-huh.
Was he in there working out in an ice jacket? That's what I need to know.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was weird. He did have an earpiece and some shades on. But
Didn't realize that till now.
that's kind of interesting. Yeah.
It was cool at the draft too, Jacob. And I don't want this to come across like we're, self-promoting, but I was blown away at how many people came up to us. It was like, I think I signed 3 autographs. I'm like, you people, man, we got to get you guys out more if you want my autograph. But it was cool, wasn't it, Emilio? Just to run into people. Like we went in the bowl, and that was probably one of my favorite moments. Is we were down there getting ready to take a group shot with a bunch of the listeners, and a rando just came up to me and was like, "Hey, are you Clayton?" I'm like, "Yeah." He's like, "You're Packers Total Access, right?" I'm like, "Yeah, man. What's your name?" And I can't remember his name, but I thought he was with our group. And he was like, "I just wanted to say hi, man." And he went back up to his seat. I was like, "That's cool, man." So. And again, it's just that's the Packers. It's more the Packers than us. It's just love of the Packers. And I feel like we do a good job of not being asses, you know what I mean? And not being rude and accepting everybody. And, well, Jacob's an ass, but that's about it.
I was going to say.
Just like respecting everyone's opinion as long as they're respectful. I think it goes a long way, man. People want their voices heard, and they want to be able to, talk Packers and feel like they're included. And I think that should be the ultimate goal anyway. So, Emilio, you remember when we were at the draft? Anybody come up to you?
Yeah. Well, Drew D came up to me with Loki. He saw the sombrero. Thanks to Tim, that made it back safely today. So we got her back on the wall. And then I met Tom at 1919 at the bar after when you guys headed out. We stayed for a couple daddy sodas. Chatted it up, met a couple guys.
A couple of daddy sodas, Emilio. A couple,
right. 2 or 3. But yeah, no, it really was a good time. Met a couple of great guys. A couple season ticket holders said if we need to find a game that or whatever we want to go up to, maybe work some tickets. So it's who you know once you get in there and you just kind of meet people. That's really what broadens everything.
Yeah, and. Jacob, just so you understand, I was like, I'm going to go back to the house and get the pod ready or get the show ready so we can do a live stream. Emilio was going to hang out and give us some footage from the stadium. Next thing you know, my phone's blowing up. People are sending videos and pictures of him on TV, bouncing the sombrero in the background on live TV.
Bates sent us a picture, but didn't Bates send you a direct picture? That's a great shot, Bates. I appreciate that, man.
It's a clean thing. Matter of fact, we got a second. Let me put
he said, matter of fact.
It's a clean shot for sure, man. Let me find it.
It was NFL Network, man. I found a little spot, a little opening in the defense, Jacob, and I figured I can get the sombrero on screen. That thing's bright enough.
Yeah. Once you find a gap, you got to exploit it, and you got to get it on film. That can.
Jesus.
That's not
unbelievable. All right, here you go. Look at this right here, boy.
Look at this guy right there. He is. That's good right there.
See?
Good shot, yeah.
That's clean.
Like a possum in a dumpster. Look at this guy right here.
Just to the right of the purple suit.
Leave him alone for 30 minutes and he's on TV. I would totally expect him to be shirtless too, Jacob. Just running around the parking lot acting a fool. So.
I really was for about 10 because I would look out of the corner of my eye, could see the TV what they were actually seeing, and anytime it zoomed in on the purple suit, I think it was Chris Sims, right? I just was up throwing that sombrero around.
Holmes says he looks sober to me. That's a negative, sir. That's a negative. Okay. he when he got back to the house, I think he sobered up by the time the show was over that night. But
we were in good shape back then. Couple cannolis sober you right up.
Oh yeah, you're good. And then of course he had to get caught up on the board too. He was working the virtual board.
That'll sober you up trying to get both boards squared away, horizontal and the vertical.
He's got one eye open. What row is that?
Exactly. All right. No, you wasn't, Holmes. Don't you backtrack on that. He said I was being sarcastic, Clay. Oh, okay. I got you. You were okay. I'm with you. I'm a little slow. I'm from Kentucky. All right. Let's talk a little Matthew Golden here. I thought this was really cool. Just a quick little clip of something that he had to say. And I just tweeted out, Green Bay Packers first round pick, Matthew Golden reflects. Actually, I'll just let him tell it. I don't want to give it away here too quickly. But this was Matthew Golden talking about. I think he was asked by Jason Wilde, you ever had to face any kind of adversity, that type of thing. And here's what Matthew Golden had to say. I thought this was an absolutely awesome response to the question.
things that you've dealt with adversity-wise that have shaped you to be who you are now?
As far as football or anything in general?
I think he was talking about both.
Me and my mom, at times we stayed in hotels, and it was times we couldn't pay for a room, so we stayed in front of Walmart in Brenham, Texas. And, so I reflect back to that, whenever I am playing football, it just keep me motivated to keep going. In 2020.
So I thought that was really cool. Like it reminded me so much of Donald Driver's story, if you guys remember that, right? Living out, I want to say they lived out of a
UPS truck or something, right?
U-Haul. Yeah, U-Haul, right?
Yeah.
And humble beginnings, right? And you see Matthew Golden, you see the iced out chain and everything, draft night and the flashy suit, and it's easy to think, all right, this guy's had everything handed to him, right? Was not the case at all. That's been a work in progress for some time for sure. So really excited to have him on the Green Bay Packers team. I think he's going to turn heads this year. I've heard a lot of conversation about, is he really a 4.29, type thing. I can't listen. I'm not good enough to turn on the tape and go, yep, that's 4.240. I can't do that. I'm just not talented enough to read the tape like that. What I did notice on the tape, though, in terms of speed, I never seen one play where the ball was just turned loose and he could run and get it. I didn't see one time that was there. So I'm going to trust the 4.2940 is what I'm going to try. And it's amazing how everyone says that's not an accurate 40, but no one can give you why it's not accurate. Have you all noticed that? It's like we wanted a wide receiver in the first round for so long. We finally get one, and now people are trying to tear down the 40 that was clocked at the combine. It hasn't been officially changed, right? And people were saying, no, he's closer to a 4.5 40 than a 4.2. That's a big difference, boys. That's a big difference. The thing that stood out to me on the tape with Matthew Golden is body control, good hands. He can high point the ball. He is so smooth in and out of his transitions when you're talking about running pretty much every route on the tree. When you look at Savion Williams, you see a guy who probably didn't get to run every route on the tree consistently. With Matthew Golden, it's totally different. You've seen that guy in the moving Z. You've seen him at the X. You've seen him in the slot. He was running corner routes, out routes, curl routes where he's jabbing out, working back in, running skinny posts with the jab and go, everything. So I feel really comfortable with how his game looks. I want to get your all's initial thoughts on the Matthew Golden pick as we're, roughly a week in, over a week, I guess now since the pick was made. How are we feeling about it? And then we're going to see what his wide receiver coach at Texas had to say about him per Bill Huber, who did an excellent job putting an SI article together. I'll start with you, Jacob. What do you think about Matthew Golden now?
Yeah. Well, the first thing that sticks out is when you said move and Z. That's my favorite closing move at the office. It's a little extra, but it's worth it. Now, Matthew Golden, man, he is a little bit of a anomaly because you see that 4.29 speed and you think, well, he must be a burner on tape, blah, blah, blah. But like you said, the asterisk there is that who's the guy, Quinn Ewers, kind of had himself a little bit of a broken wing for a lot of that career. It seemed like he was throwing up a lot of duck balls, a lot of balls he had to kind of maybe definitely not, like you said, stretch the field like he would want to and have to break stride and all that kind of stuff. But when you looked at a lot of interviews that he did, he told us, told the media, they're like, were you surprised he ran a 4.29, blah, blah, blah. And he goes, well, no, I was consistently getting low 4.3s, like 4.31, 4.32. And he goes, I think that the extra adrenaline, I mean, think about it. Like your adrenaline for sure kicks in that moment and can get you an extra 1/10 of a second. You know what I mean? 0.2 of a second, whatever you got to do there. So I don't have any doubts about his physical and athletic ability. It's just a matter of whether or not it's going to translate to the NFL. And I think that we have one of the most unique coaches that can take a single guy's talent. I'm more excited to see how he's going to scheme the offense for Savion, but same difference goes for Michael Golden. We've seen if he can scheme open, enter name here, he can scheme open anybody.
Yeah, I think it's a great point. And honestly, I really just like the pick. I saw on Twitter they had who's going to have the most touchdowns out of the 4 first-round wide receivers with Travis, Ibuka, and Golden. And dude, I could see it. You go on flashes. Remember when Bo Melton was our first 100-yard receiver? I don't think it's going to take. You know what I mean? I don't think it's going to take that long this year. I think second game we're going to get our 100-yard receiver, and we're probably going to see a touchdown in the first, quarter of the season. First 4 weeks, we're going to see probably 2-3 touchdowns from Matthew because, Matt's going to want to get him involved. He's going to want to kind of get everybody involved that's new, that needs to get a hand on the ball, needs to get touches. And I really am, like you said, Jacob, excited to see how we can scheme him up.
Yeah, let's go to the chat. J. Cole says, I always ask, why does it matter? The guy has skills. That's the other thing is like when I'm watching a game on Sunday, it's so rare that I'm like, God, if he'd just had a 4.2 40, that would have been the difference there. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. It's more about tracking the ball, really, when it comes to those deep shots, because you can have all the speed in the world in MVS, but if you can't track the football, you know what I'm saying?
Like, and he can do that. He can. I mean, he's able to adjust, come back to the ball if he had a couple of duck balls, and he really is in between defenders. Working in nickel against nickel defender in the slot there. He's so subtle with some of his shape and just get to open space. I love that.
Definitely. Let's see here. Greg Rice says Golden seems like a good guy. Like he is going to buy his. I like that he's going to buy his grandma a house. He's going to buy her house back. It sounded like it got repossessed or foreclosed on or what have you. So really cool story there along the way. Daryl in the chat says, I'm all good with the Golden pick, another playmaker alongside Reed. I think they're going to complement each other really well, Daryl. I really do. Ron Samble says, sound like he's the first one in, last one out guy as well. That seems to be the big, I don't want to say rumor, but the reputation he's built at Texas for sure. Dan Lang says, after watching your tape breakdown earlier this week, a great add to the receiver room. And Ben Holden says, probably more than anything this year, he'll push the other receivers to be better. That's the other thing that's going kind of, not talked about as much is a rising tide raises all ships. If you think for a second that Christian Watson ain't going to be trying to get back from that injury as quick as possible, right, or even Jaden Reed, Jaden Reed, to me, he seems like the glue of that wide receiver room. You guys remember in Pittsburgh in 2023, his rookie year, when they said he didn't call the meeting, but I think it was he and Tay Wicks were talking at his locker. Next thing you know, all the receivers that huddle around, and the beat reporters are like, we just watched it kind of evolve, and he became this vocal, like, hey, we're going to figure this crap out.
Right.
And you guys remember that was the year they started off really, really slow, and the next thing you know, they turn it on. I think Jaden Reed and Matthew Golden are going to be like two peas in a pot for the next 8 to 10 years. I really do.
Mm-hmm. Dude, what's crazy real quick is that we're talking about Golden coming into the league, making some money and getting his house back. That we got ourselves our own Happy Gilmore, ladies and gentlemen. That's the plot of Happy Gilmore, just in football form. I'm excited about it, and I want to highlight that. Also, my man Daryl, he's on a roll. He's been coming up with some heaters lately. He's telling us that Isaiah Bonds did sign with the Dolphins. So the guy that went undrafted, that went from probably what could have been a third round pick, completely fell out of the draft, and looks like he may get a second chance here with the Dolphins. So.
And that doesn't surprise me in Miami because, Coach McDaniel down there is Mike McDaniels, right? Is his name? He's the one that Matt LaFleur helped him get his foot back in the door after becoming a real bad alcoholic. If you guys remember, to the point where he was coming in drunk and was sleeping in meetings and everything. And they basically got kicked out of football for a year, kind of banned from the year, so to speak, shadow banned by the coaches. And then Matt LaFleur vouched for him to get him back, to get his foot back in the door. They're really close friends to this day. So it doesn't surprise me that he gives someone like Isaiah Bond a second chance, that type of thing. So it's going to be interesting to see how that develops down there for sure. So, all right, let's see what Matthew Golden's wide receiver coach. Y'all are killing me. I just want you to know that his wide receiver coach at Texas had to say about him. Okay, and Bill Huber, if you guys aren't checking these articles out that he's putting out on the prospects, go to his Twitter handle. Just type in Bill Huber and it'll pop up. He works for Sports Illustrated covering the Packers. Been with the Packers for a long time, and he covered all the information that's in this article. I just tried to pull together some quotes from it. So make sure you go give it a like or retweet, all that good stuff over on his Twitter page. So Bill Huber of SI recently discussed the Green Bay Packers selection of Texas wide receiver Matthew Golden as their first round, number 23 overall pick in the 2025 NFL draft, ending a 23-year streak of not drafting a receiver in the first round. Insights come from Golden's Texas receiver coach, Chris Jackson, a former Packers player. If I understood correctly, Chris Jackson was on the roster the last time they drafted a wide receiver in Javon Walker back in 2002, if I understood Wildy explaining that earlier. Jackson emphasizes Golden's mental toughness, work ethic, and humble background, noting his drive to succeed for his family, particularly to buy back his grandmother's house. Golden's challenging upbringing and strong character combined with on-field skills make him, quote, built for the NFL expectations, according to Jackson. His late season surge at Texas and a 4.29 42nd 40-yard dash at the combine highlight his potential to thrive with the Packers. So here are the quotes from his wide receiver coach at Texas. Because he's built for it. I think as a person, he's mentally strong. He's able to live on his own and be successful away from football. He takes care of his body. He takes care of his nutrition. Another quote he said was, he's down-to-earth, hardworking, blue-collar type of kid who comes from humble beginnings. Another quote, so to me, it's the fact that when he came here, he wasn't living off of press clips or what the expectations were, what he did successfully at Houston. He was a kid that came here that wanted to start fresh and earn what was given to him. If you guys remember, Isaiah Bond transferred over from Alabama so he could be the number one receiver at Texas. And then Matthew Golden burst on the scene, and down the stretch through the SEC championship game and the playoffs, that's where he played his best football. He just kind of took over, and that's not a shot at Isaiah Bond. It's just more of a testament of how Matthew Golden stepped up in the biggest game. So I think it's cool that he did mention that for sure. He also went on to say, so I think that's the same mentality that he's going to take to Green Bay and the NFL, is just kind of that humble approach, right? It says to be a first-round pick in the NFL draft or in the NFL, there's only 32 of them every year. You're talking about being one of 32 people of your peers in all of college football. That's a lot to be excited for and a lot to be respected for. But with Coach LaFleur there, with Jordan Love and the wide receiver play, I think he's going to be very successful there. So he couldn't have fell into a better situation. I think we would all agree with that. He also said, quote, Matt was somebody that just really bought into the system, talking about at Texas. So sounds like there was no pushback, no flashy, hey, we should do this instead of that, unhappy about his role. It was just, hey, how can I fit into this system as much as possible? He learned to develop trust not only from the coaching staff, but more importantly, his quarterback, Quinn Ewers. He learned to understand where he was and it fits to our concepts. When he was primary, when he had to do what he had to do for the benefit of another player, whether it be in a run or the pass game. Said he was strong-minded young man, strong hands, can run through the catch point, physical. He can block, Emilio. He can block.
I love it.
Yeah, he can block. Is going to bring you special teams value, is going to bring you a good teammate. And his final quote was, he'll do his role for the other people to be successful. And when his time is asked to do what he needs to do, he's going to do that to the best of his ability. And he's willing to learn. He's coachable. He loves being coached. Everything you hear about this kid, Matthew Golden, man, especially from his former wide receiver coach, I'm excited, dude. I think we got us a dog here. I don't know. I'm fired up about it. What do you guys think about what his wide receiver coach had to say there? It just seems like it all comes back to work ethic, humble, and just willing to put in the work and keep his head down and grind.
Yeah, I mean, like I think somebody in the chat said earlier, if nothing else, this puts all the other wide receivers on notice. And then you add in the Savion Williams, obviously, but he just seems he's a prototypical Packer. You know, they went in, I swear they interviewed these guys and they're like, hey, has anything catastrophic happened in your life? And if you're like, nope, they're like, all right, well, we'll see you later. You know, they almost thrive on finding guys that have had extreme adversity. And I don't know if that's like a main decider and the criteria, because it just seems like it happens way too often. But it makes sense, because like you see a guy like Golden, like you heard him talk about, once you've lived in a tent or been homeless or lost a loved one, you know what I mean? Any of these types of things, all of a sudden your mind and your goals kind of shift into what exactly you're focused on. And I guess it does make sense, because if you're in an NFL front office and you're about to dedicate a multi-million contract that could result in tens of millions over the career of that player, and they are a brittle, butter soft, you know what, that you got to learn that. You got to know that before you decide to sign on that dotted line. So And then the whole thing about just his character, I think that's just a certain thing that the Packers, every draft, like the Mike Greens, there's never going to be there. It was just never going to be a shot. You know what I mean? Right. Enter in whatever kind of player has any sort of Isaiah Bond. I don't think that's ever going to be a shot. That's why I kind of scratched my head. Did you see the Josh Jacobs thing where he's talking about how he keeps in touch with Henry Ruggs and how he'd like to get him possibly a chance to when he comes out, possibly like in a year? He's like, I'm going to be there for him. I really don't think the Packers would do that, to be honest, but maybe if you're turning over a new leaf, it is different when you really dive into the story. I feel a way different way about it now, hearing another side of it and hearing from actually Ruggs' family. It doesn't sound like he was like one of them bad kids, like freaking gangbanger type. He made a bad decision and done some stupid stuff. And it sounds like the people that put him up to it was his own freaking family, which is even more whatever.
Yeah. I mean, it was a bad decision that had the most horrible outcome it could possibly have with a young lady losing her life. He's got to live with that. But, to go back to your point there, Jacob, like Ted Thompson was real big on giving people second chances. I remember that. Like I remember when they signed Corin Robinson and Ted Thompson cut all kinds of flack and he dropped a little scripture on him. It was like, people deserve second chances, that type of thing. And, I don't want to get preachy on here, but if you're hearing my voice and you claim to be a Christian and then in the other breath you're saying, screw that guy, he doesn't deserve a second chance, might want to dive back into the book, because one thing I've struggled with the most in my faith is you got to forgive. You got to forgive. That's the number one rule. Grace, giving it to other people and accepting it from the Almighty. So, you can be stubborn and act like la, 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 and pretend like that's not the main message, but that's the message. And again, I struggle with it because I hold grudges and I've got a bad temper. But I still can't stand Emilio, but here he is, right? You got to do it right. So, right, Emilio? No.
Absolutely.
But anyway, what do you think about what the coach had to say about Matthew Golden, just in general, man?
Yeah, I honestly think Matthew listened to this presser before he came here.
No block, no rock.
And we're cooking. Yeah, I love that. He's a team player, especially on the outside. You don't want someone that's not going to be willing to, do the dirty stuff, run those streaks just to open up for somebody else. And I love that for him, because if we have a guy that's consistent like that and always willing to work, always, like Max said, he was already excited that he was in the gym working out when he called him about Barryn. So, just a hardworking guy that's genuine, that's family oriented. What was Vince's quote? God, family, and the Green Bay Packers.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's golden right there. So I love the kid so far.
It's funny you brought up Barryn Sorrell too. This is really cool. I was listening to Savion Williams talk earlier. I think he was referring to Houston. Evidently, Savion signed with Houston, and then he transferred to TCU later. But I didn't know this. Savion actually hosted Matthew Golden on his visit coming out of high school to Houston.
Really?
And then he ends up transferring to TCU. Matthew Golden transfers to Texas. And then when he gets to Texas, one of his best friends on the team is Barryn Sorrell. They met the first day and they linked up. So you got all three of those guys that are now teammates, along with the Georgia connection of Devontae Wyatt, Quay Walker, now Warren Brinson, and you got Nazir Stackhouse and everybody. It's really cool to kind of see everything come together. And back to what you were talking about, Jacob, how it seems like you got all these different players all the way back really over the last 3 years that they've drafted that have just faced adversity after adversity. Goody's been pretty vocal, and John Eric Sullivan's been vocal about it, that they believe in drafting people and signing people who have faced adversity because, like Matthew Golden was saying, like when you don't know where you're going to lay your head that night, I think it's a little bit easier, as a kid dealing with that. And I dealt with a few things as a child too. That's why I'm not like afraid of any other man. If someone ever bucks on me, I'm like, Bub, you have no idea the stuff I seen as a kid. If you think you're intimidating me, you've lost your mind, right? Matthew Golden, I guarantee you, when it's third and 12 and he knows he's the primary on a trips left look, I have a hard time believing I can't handle this. He's probably going to be thinking, man, we had to sleep in our car in a Walmart parking lot because we were so damn broke. I'm not about to convert this third down.
Absolutely, Clay, because that points to him getting more looks, more targets, the team wanting to go to him on third, fourth down, late in the game. All that stuff builds up because why? He's cool under pressure. What's Jimmy McGinty say? Winners want the ball when the game's on the line, Falco. Come on now.
That's it.
Really?
Judy said, don't give him no really. We were talking about him buying his grandmama's house back, and you mentioned damn Happy Gilmore. All right,
that's a 1-on-1 connection. All right,
that was a good connection too, by the way. Which that comes out this summer, right? Happy Gilmore 2?
Yes.
I can't wait. Cannot wait to see that. Drew D says Javon Bullard, another one, right? Georgia connection. Forgot about that. So
yeah.
You had Eric Stokes, but moment of silence for Eric Stokes. No longer here. Anyway,
he didn't die. He's on the Raiders. Same thing.
Correct. That is correct. Thank you for pointing that out. Good to see Chewy in here. He said, "This is our Amon-Ra St. Brown." You know, Amon-Ra St. Brown is he's primarily a slot receiver, but I think I understand what Chewy's saying here. You know, Golden's going to play outside the majority of his snaps. I firmly believe that, whether it's a moving Z or they want to try to work him into the X. But Amon-Ra St. Brown's kind of that emotional spark plug, right? If you watch Matthew Golden's tape, every time he got a first down, every time he scored a touchdown, that dude was just amped up. And it wasn't like a let me dance and show y'all how cool I am. It was like one of those flexing every muscle in your body ready to kick somebody's ass type thing. I think that's something that's really going to bleed into the wide receiver room. So I agree with you, Chewy. Go ahead, Jay.
You know who he reminded me of? And I think, if I'm not mistaken, chat, let me know, but he reminds me of Steve Smith with his quiet, or like big, I shouldn't say quiet confidence, with his, like you said, that physical confidence, and not being the biggest guy necessarily, but having a whole big dog mentality inside of him. And I think that on Steve Smith's podcast, I thought that he had listed Matthew Golden as number one receiver. Maybe I'm just
he did. He said hands down he's my favorite receiver in the draft.
Okay. And I see a lot of that, just like not back down. Steve Smith might be one of my favorite wide receivers of all time because for his size, I don't think there's anybody pound for pound that was stronger than he was. He was just a freaking scrapper.
Yeah. Daryl in the chat says, I still can't forget about Matthew Golden's draft night. It was awesome when he was making his long entrance with the crowd chanting "Go Pack, Go" over and over again. It was surreal. And the video dropped from Packers Twitter earlier. We'll probably watch it when we go offline here in a minute because I kind of showed it to Jake. If we got a second, we'll watch it together. We can't watch it now because obviously we'll get hit with the copyright. But
if we block it out, can we listen to it?
It's a phenomenal. Well, there's music playing, so the music will trigger a copyright as well. So if we were on Rumble, we'd have no problem. But we got to be real careful over here. So yeah. But Daryl, it was I wasn't there. Emilio wasn't there when the pick was made, but it was cool being there all day at the draft. And then going back and doing the show and then seeing the pick. As soon as Mark Murphy said, well, we knew the pick beforehand, right? I remember when I flashed it on the screen and it was like, oh, crap, it's Matthew Golden. We all lost our mind. Not that we're like huge Matthew Golden fans, but it was just like we knew what this meant being the first receiver since 2002. And the way Mark Murphy delivered it, man, what the ultimate send-off. That's just amazing to me. So
I just love the real reaction from the war room too. When he said, for the first time in 22 years, like in the war room's like, oh geez, Mark, you're supposed to say the name, but it's perfectly how it's perfect just how he did it. Seriously, like that's just Mark, and thanks to him for getting it there. And I did see the start of that video before I hopped on. Even just seeing he said it in 2016 about wanting the draft there, and he got it done, man. So that's awesome.
Definitely. Anything else on Matthew Golden, fellas, before we move along here?
Negative.
Wasn't 12 for this supposed to get a golden face jersey? Because if so, I want to see that in the chat. You guys got to send us some. That'd be a great jersey. That really would. I like the 22. Real quick, what do you guys think about the 22? I absolutely love it.
I love that stuff.
Yeah.
It's like when Quay picked 7. I thought that was awesome.
Yeah,
I really like it. Emilio, you old school, or do you like it too? You like?
No, I like it. Yeah, absolutely. With I think it's Franklin on my ultimate team. He's wearing 34 out wide, so I'm fine with that.
Just okay.
Unbelievable.
CJN came in lady says hello everyone. And then he was asking about Jaire earlier. Did I miss the jaw talk? You did.
Y'all want to hit it again?
Over. No. No.
Just a quick update on Ja. If you're genuinely asking there, CJ.
Just here to tell you, Pack is back.
It's perfect, but not accurate.
So the rumor on the Twitter streets is that there a deal is pretty close to being done. Again, not credible sources, but there's several people tweeting that out. Hopefully it's true, So if that's the case, then I think what would probably happen is they're going to restructure it in a way where he can make maybe even more money than he's currently getting, but it be incentive based. That way, if the injury does occur again, they kind of get that, they get that cap back, I guess you could say. CJN says, speaking of jersey, Clayton, did I lose out on that jersey? So this is the final call here, CJN. We did a Robert Brooks autographed jersey giveaway on draft night. Let me close this out so I know where it ended. Autograph Robert Brooks jersey giveaway. Professor Cakes was the first place winner. We still haven't heard from him. And
he's the next comment. Come on, Professor Cakes.
Unbelievable. CJN, you didn't get the jersey, but Professor Cakes is in here. So yeah, Professor Cakes, you won the autograph Robert Brooks. Like, hell, that's awesome.
It's literally right below it.
Yeah, and now CJN's going to sign out for that. He's like, well, crap.
Look at Professor Cakes. I'm right here.
Yeah, it was Professor Cakes, then Rich Beck, and then CJN. CJN reached out first. I haven't heard from Rich Beck. Hopefully he's not in the clink. But yeah, Professor Cakes, you are the winner, sir. So I apologize, CJN. That's heartbreaking, man.
The original comment that was right below CJN's Professor Cakes was wondering, correct me if I'm wrong, but aren't players not allowed to wear number 0? I thought it was a team-by-team basis, but is that not true? I know in other sports they can.
I don't know of one single 0 that's being worn in the league.
That's true. What do you want?
What, Emilio? What's your problem?
CJ and Cakes is on damn Cakes. Go back on vacation.
Sorry, CJ. That's seriously
So close.
That was at the buzzer. Cakes probably hasn't watched the show in 6 months, and the one night he times on, he steals the jersey.
If CJN didn't say anything, Cakes would have never known, and he would have just had it.
Oh, this show sucks so bad.
I kept my damn mouth shut.
Unbelievable.
Did you DM me again, CJ? That's good stuff. So you got me wanting to send you something. I tell you this, there was an autographed Mason Crosby card that never got claimed. So
I'll take it.
I gotta shout these two guys out now, though. Michael Godfrey and Roger Davis for the winner of that. Watch them both being here
They're
tonight.
both in here, yeah.
If we don't hear from Michael Godfrey or Roger Davis by midnight tonight, CJN DM me, and I will send you the Mason Crosby card since they didn't claim it. All right, so a piece of a jersey autographed in a card. It's really cool. Cool piece of memory. So.
Cakes, I'm hot now, boys. CJ says you're welcome, Cakes.
All right, that's going to do it for hour 1. For those of you listening on the pod, we'll see you on the other side for hour 2. We appreciate you.
For those of you listening on the pod,
welcome into hour 2. I have the volume cranked. That sounds even funnier with Jacob's voice that loud.
I'm trying to
all right, hour 2. Let's talk a little Anthony Belton. Is that all right, guys?
Let's do it.
This is so professional.
thick.
Yeah, he is thick. You're right. So with Anthony Belton, obviously he played offensive line at NC State. So this was his offensive line coach. Tell me this guy doesn't look like he could slap somebody in the mouth, right? So I know I'm going to screw his name up, but he sounds off here and talks about Anthony Belton. All right, so Bill Huber of SI recently covered the Green Bay Packers' second-round pick of NC State offensive tackle Anthony Belton in the 2025 NFL Draft with insights from his offensive line coach, Garrett
Teji.
Teji
would be my thought.
I said Tajagu.
Teji?
I said Tajagu.
Tajagu.
I'm Tajagu. That's what phonetically, right?
What's phonetically mean? I don't know.
I got hooked on
Garrett T.
Garrett what?
Garrett T.
Coach T.
All right, yeah, let's call him
Here's
Coach
what
T.
said. Coach T praises Belton's character, loyalty, work ethic, and intelligence, noting his decision to stay at NC State as his potential and his potential for NFL success. At 6'6", 336 pounds, Belton's rare athleticism make him a freak athlete, and Coach T believes his best is yet to come with the Packers. All right, so there you see he was actually at the combine when Anthony Belton was there. I really like that shot right there. Pretty cool. They're throwing up the Wolfpack symbol. So here are the quotes from Coach T. First and foremost, phenomenal kid, great young man, loves his teammates. Next quote, the things I love about him, like loyalty and camaraderie, are big to him. All right. Next quote, every year I was here, he'd have schools trying to poach him, and he never went in the portal. The coach was calling his mom, talking about money, and they're just a very loyal family, very loyal kid, hard worker. That's probably my favorite quote, guys. The fact that multiple teams were trying to offer him more money than NC State was paying him to get him to transfer, and he wouldn't transfer because he was loyal to his teammates and his team. We kind of talked about that in the draft process too when we were doing the scouting and building the board. Like anytime I've seen a player that spent, all 4 or 5 years at the same school, that meant something to me. You know what I mean, Jacob? Like the fact that, there's nothing wrong with transfer. Don't get me wrong. You're going to get more money and help your family out. By all means, do your thing. But when someone chooses to stay, I don't know, that means something to me. I don't know if it's just the way I was raised and being raised in a Bacher family or what, but loyalty is everything to me, man.
Mm-hmm.
I love that aspect.
I think the Packers respect that too. If you recall, Mr. Tucker Kraft was getting calls from freaking Nick Saban in Alabama, seeing if he wanted to transfer, and he said, "No, I'm good. I'm going to stick up here at the Corn." And you look at then what Belton did here. Also, you look at Barryn Sorrell. That's another guy that stayed, I believe, all 4 years there at Texas when he had some other opportunities to go other places. I think it does, especially nowadays with the NIL stuff and with the glitz and the glamour and the contracts and the money and all the stuff that you can get from just simply not being loyal. To me, if I was in the front office, I would totally look at somebody that was willing to stick it out, even when it's not necessarily the best of seasons. You know what I mean? That's the type of player that you want on your squad because you know that at worst case scenario, you got somebody that's going to keep that locker room together.
Yeah. Dead Fish. Go ahead, Emilio.
No, I was just that's exactly the kind of guy that you want. The one that's going to stay, he's for family, for football. That's all it's about. I feel like that you've seen that repetitively this year as well. Like you said, Jacob, going through something, but also just having love for family and the game itself is key to the Packers. I think that's why, those 30 visits are so key, being able to tell that from a person in person.
Yeah, definitely. Dead Fish says I already want him to get a second contract from the Packers. I'm with you on that, man.
What?
I really hope he pans out on the field. I do. And that's kind of the next quote here. I thought it was really cool. I know for a fact.
Hold on. Sorry. Bates is saying that he's saying it's pronounced Two Jacks.
That might be the
at least that's how they pronounce the street name in New Orleans. He's saying Two Jack. How?
I was pretty close. Then.
That's a cool name, though, by the way. Like Two Jacks. Coach Two Jacks. Let's go, man. I like it. Coach Two Jacks said, I know for a fact his best football is still ahead of him. We talk about players entering the league, ascending into the league. That seems to be the case for Anthony Belton. If I remember correctly, I want to say his best year was his final year in college. And he's one of those guys that he had a high pass blocking grade, according to PFF. But when you turn on the tape, his run blocking is what sticks out. He's a mauler. We did the Chalk Talk the other night. If you guys haven't got a chance to check it out, you can actually go to our Patreon page. Just scan the QR code in the upper right or go to patreon.com/Packer Fan Total Access. You can find that whole write-up on Anthony Belton along with this one and everything else we do. And you'll see attached right at the top of the page is that Chalk Talk episode where we break down the tape of Anthony Belton. You can also find Matthew Golden's in there as well. And tomorrow, if we don't get to it tonight, which I don't think we will, tomorrow we're going to be doing a Chalk Talk on Savion Williams, and that video will be cut, edited, and put up there on his page as well. So we're going to keep all that stuff in there. Basically, our Patreon group is going to be the hub for your 2025 Green Bay Packers season is what it's going to be. It's going to be really, really nicely put together. So Let's see here. His eagerness to learn is going to separate him, so he's kind of always growing, right? He takes a lot of pride in knowing what to do and when to do it. And again, he's a freak athlete at that size. You just don't see that at that size, what he can do. As Ted Thompson used to say, the good Lord only made so many big guys, right? You can't coach that. You can't. And the fact that he's got the athleticism to go with that frame of 6'6", 300 and whatever it was, 33 pounds is just insane. Another quote from Coach T says, I think the fact that Packers are interested in him enough to draft him in the second round, they'll make sure he gets what he needs. And that's kind of what we were talking about. Like, I mean, when was the last time a second rounder didn't get on the field, for the Packers? Last year, it was Javon Bullard and Edgerrin Cooper. They both started, right? The year before, I'm trying to think who the second rounder was the year before.
Musgrave, right?
Musgrave, until he got hurt. He was higher.
He started, before Kraft. Yeah.
And then the year before that, I'm trying to
Christian,
think.
Was it?
Christian Watson. They got him on the field immediately. The precedent is there for him to start. Now, where does he start? That's the question. Does he jump into the right guard, spot and win that job and maybe take it from Jordan Morgan? I don't know. Does he take Rasheed Walker's spot? Now, the beat writers seem to think, and I believe it was Wildy and several other people talking, that the breadcrumbs that have been left by the front office is Jordan Morgan is going to be competing with Rasheed Walker for left tackle this year. And that kind of caught me off guard because I thought Anthony Belton would jump into that role and they would just keep Jordan Morgan at right guard. But as Matt LaFleur always says, we get your best five out there, I think, we're talking about the wide receiver room camp battle. We're talking about all these different camp battles that are going to be going on. Man, look at the edge room, right? We'll talk about Barryn Sorrell here in a minute if we have time. The edge room and who's going to get that extra rotation, right? All that stuff. Offensive line camp battle, Emilio, it's going to be off the chain, bro. There's going to be like two positions that there's going to be 4 or 5 offensive linemen fighting their asses off for. I think it's going to be awful.
Because it's not like we didn't try to get Jordan Morgan out there last year too. I mean, he was a first round pick. Gave him opportunities, was in there for some starts, and that's something that Sean Ryan's got to be ready to show up if he wants that spot back. Rasheed's, I think, still maybe needs to show up to fight for that spot. And if Rasheed does win out, okay, fine. Maybe Belton's still there hanging around, and maybe Jordan Morgan takes right guard, whatever. But it could be one of those things. It could be like Rasul. What if Rasheed plays for up to week 7 and it's like, oh wait, no, I think Belton's good to go. Like we have this with real nice compensation coming at us right now. They need a left tackle. And what if Rasheed is out, before the end of the season? I don't think that could happen, but there's like all these possibilities that you could dive into, having a little bit extra help there, and being ready for any type of injuries that could come their way.
Yeah, definitely. Greg Rice asked, was Morgan hurt before week 1? He hurt his shoulder in training camp, right? Mm-hmm. And then he re-aggravated it at the end of the year. So I know people like to pretend like he didn't earn the starting job. It wasn't like he was healthy. It wasn't like Sean Ryan beat him out for that job. And when he was healthy, they were rotating, right? So I think Jordan Morgan's going to be fine. I think we're going to look up in a year or two and go, he's one of our best offensive linemen. And it's obvious that what Goody's doing here, Jacob, is he's setting the stage for the next wave of offensive linemen. So, look, Elton ain't getting no younger, right? And when it's time for Elton to move on, whether it's in free agency or he decides to retire, I think he's 30 right now, right? Or he's going to be 30 this year.
Yeah, I couldn't believe that.
So you look at it, Zach Tom's in the future. We know that. Zach Tom's going to be here. Jordan Morgan's going to be a starter. I think Anthony Belton will be a starter. At left guard, you got Aaron Banks for at least the next 2, probably 3 years would be my guess, and maybe longer. So there's 3 starters right there, right? And as Elton Jenkins moves on, now you can play center at a lot older age than all the other offensive line positions. I'm not trying to run Elton out of town. I hope he comes out and dominates at center. That's the one worry for me is there's no one else on that starting offensive line right now that I would feel comfortable going, he can play center other than Zach Tom, right? And I think Zach Tom could play it really, really well. But they obviously like him at tackle. more than they do center. So it's important, Jacob, to roll those guys through, right? You got to keep that fresh batch ready to go. Is what the Packers have done well for so long. They had Chad Clifton at left tackle. What they do? They drafted Bulaga. Well, Bulaga couldn't play left tackle. They kicked him to right. Lo and behold, a 4th or a 5th rounder, and David Bakhtiari ends up being an all-pro left tackle.
Yeah, and they do that cycle, and we all kind of grind. I almost said a bad word. We all kind of get a little bit upset at Goody. Myself too. I hate that we cut the string. Seemingly, we all think it's too soon, and then we watch what happens, and usually they're next year or another year, and they completely fall off. I mean, the wheels just fall off that. And it's a vicious game. The NFL, we always say, stands for not for long, and it's a rarity. In most organizations, it's a rarity to get 3 contracts, let alone 2, even make it past your rookie contract. So the Packers have been a really good evaluators of talent, especially in the offensive line room. I ate a slice of humble pie when I kind of balked at the Belton pick in round 2, and then all of a sudden I saw some film. I started thinking about it rationally. You see what kind of an absolute man mover that dude is. He's a meat missile, but a stopper of meat missiles. He's like a brick wall. I mean, he's a beast. And like you said, you got to reset that pocketbook every few years. And if you don't, you really got to have a guy. As much as I love Rasheed Walker being a 7th round pick, that is what dreams are made of. But unfortunately, his dream when you're in the Packers organization is that you made that step, you were a 3-year starter, and you're going to go get that money. Somebody's going to pay you money. Somebody's going to pay you a lot of money. It's just probably not going to be the Packers.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, you think about it, we're in the North, we're cold game situations, injuries, but on top of that, like, we want to be able to just road grade people. I think that, maybe you want, we had size at our offensive line beforehand, but this is size and power and, all of the above. The question, I mean, I would be excited, Matt maybe brings him in as an extra tackle on one, play here or there, like just to get him loose if he's not starting. Let's go heavy or let's go overload one side and just see if he can't wall down, and even you bring him out there, he could be the decoy of the whole play. Like you bring the big guy out there, just set him up over there and we'll run the opposite side. But it's, buck naked through the trailer park.
Mm-hmm. Speaking of butt naked through the trailer park, surprised O.J. Simpson's face in the chat says, reminds me of building an O-line the way Gruden did with the Raiders when they last had, you guessed it, Josh Jacobs at running back. Their average weight and height of the offensive line was 6'6", 336 pounds. And again, when you're running duo, a little bit different than just running outside zone. Outside zone, you want those guys that can get out there. Now, not that Anthony Belton can't do that because he's being praised for his athletic ability. Right. But running duo, the other thing too, when you're running inside zone or even outside zone, the bigger the offensive linemen are, that running back can get lost behind them. He can hide behind those offensive linemen more than you can see them. So that's something I think goes unnoticed a lot for sure. All right, last couple quotes here from Coach T. Said he knows how to work. And can and you can coach him hard. I think that's absolutely huge. Some guys you got to kind of tippy toe around it. You don't want to hurt their feelings. You don't want to be too hard. This is a kid that evidently loves to be coached hard. A great human being, very good person was the other 2 quotes there. So really excited to see what Anthony Belton does, man. There's a Green Bay Packer. Anything else you guys want to add to the Belton talk before we switch gears here?
It just seems like another genuine person, man. That's it. I mean, I think that's all they went after was just real good people.
Yeah, definitely. Jacob, you good?
Yeah, I'm good.
I see the comment. You knucklehead. Unbelievable. All right, let's talk a little Barryn Sorrell. That good with you guys?
Please.
We'll have his chalk talk ready to go probably as early as Sunday. So we're going to do Savion Williams tomorrow. And then we'll jump into Barryn Sorrell on Sunday, and we'll just keep this thing moving on here. But this was cool. This was from Dane Brugler on Twitter, and I've been wanting to show this several times. Listen what was said about Barryn Sorrell, okay, coming out of Texas. And again, we talked about how he and Matthew Golden are good buddies, right? And from Texas. Here's what Eli Berkovitz tweeted out, okay? Dane Brugler with a pretty cool note on Barryn Sorrell. This got confirmed. I'm pretty sure the coach he's talking about is actually the Green Bay Packers staff. But listen what he had to say about Barryn Sorrell in the draft process.
As one team put it to me, when they interviewed Texas players and they asked them, if you could bring one Texas teammate with you, if we drafted you, who are you bringing with us, or who bringing with you? A lot of them, all of them mentioned Sorrell. And that's a pretty ringing endorsement for a player.
So every Texas player that got interviewed by this team, one of the questions they like to ask is, hey, you come under the league, you can only bring one teammate with you. Who's it going to be? And they said Barryn Sorrell.
Unanimously.
Yeah.
Love that.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Really, really cool stuff, man.
Genuine person again. I mean, and that's just this draft. And it's one of those drafts where you're hoping that every single one of them hits, but you could see, you'd be happy with 3 of them. I feel like we could get 5 out of this draft. Seriously.
Right. I'm with you, man. I'm with you. So here is the write-up on him. Obviously, we didn't do a full write-up on him before the draft. So let's dive into it now, all right? We put this together, actually yesterday I think it was. Green Bay Packers bolstered their defensive front in the 2025 NFL Draft, selecting Texas edge rusher Barryn Sorrell with the 124th pick in the 4th round. After prioritizing offensive weapons early with picks like Texas wide receiver Matthew Golden, TCU's Savion Williams, the Packers turned to defense to address their inconsistent pass rush. Sorrell, a 6'3", 256-pound force from Texas, brings athleticism, grit, and inspiring personal story that could make him a fan favorite and a cornerstone of Jeff Hafley's defensive scheme. This was him in high school at Holy Cross. Look at this kid right here. Being all pissed off. Look at the arms on that dude, man.
That's an off the bus player.
That's right. How many times you recruited a player like that in college football, Emilio?
Too many.
Too
many times. Athlete,
One of those 3-star gems, right? That thing lit
Absolutely.
up. Yeah. All right. Here's his high school scouting report, coming out of high school into college. Hailing from Holy Cross High School in New Orleans, Louisiana, Barryn Sorrell was a 3-star recruit in the 2021 class, ranked as the 684th overall prospect by On3 industry ranking. At 6'3", 235, Sorrell showcased raw athleticism as a defensive end with a reported 4.7 second 40-yard dash and a knack for disrupting backfields. His senior year film highlighted his quick first step and relentless motor, earning him all-district honors. Sorrell drew offers from Missouri, Arizona State, Baylor, and Virginia, ultimately choosing the Texas Longhorns, where he developed into a productive and beloved team leader. College statistics says Sorrell's 4-year career at Texas saw him grow from a rotational player to a cornerstone of the Longhorns defense. After limited action in 2021, 7 tackles, 1 sack, he became a full-time starter in 22, amassing 38 tackles, 5.5 sacks, 8 tackles for a loss over 13 games. His 2023 and 2024 season solidified his reputation, combining for 87 tackles, 10 sacks, 16.5 tackles for a loss, 49 pressures in 2024 alone, leading Texas in quarterback hurries. Career totals: 125 tackles, 15.5 sacks, 24.5 tackles for a loss, and 29 quarterback hits across 43 games. He started 40 of those 43 games, earning honorable mention all Big 12 honors in 22 and 23. So PFF grades for Sorrell: 54.9, 63.7, 72.9, 71.5. The pass rush grade last year, 74.6. Run defense grade, 73.0. All right. Detailed scouting report entering the draft. Let's just look at the RAS card here. Actually, let's hit this last little bit and then we'll hit the RAS card. Sorrell's versatility allows him to play as a 4-3 defensive end or a 34 outside linebacker, though his lack of elite length may limit him against longer NFL tackles. He projects as a high-floor rotational pass rusher with the potential to develop into a starter if he refines his counter moves. His 19.4 mile per hour max velocity recorded in 24 underscores his closing speed, a trait that translates to chasing down the quarterbacks and running backs. So the RAS score was a 9.31, 6'3", 256, 28 bench reps, guys.
That's crazy.
Yeah, dude's stout. Vertical jump, 34 inches. Broad jump of 10.01. 40-yard dash was a 4.68 40-yard dash. 20-yard split, 2.75. 10-yard split, 1.65. His shuttle, 4.36, scoring an 8.05, and his 3-cone was a 7.06. All right. Injury and character concerns. Sorrell has been remarkably durable during starting 40 of 43 games over 3 seasons with no significant injuries reported. A minor ankle sprain in 23 didn't sideline him, and he played in all 16 games in 24, including 1.5 sacks in the college football playoff. Off the field, Sorrell is a high-character leader whose passion stems from personal tragedy, the loss of his older brother at the age of 16, which fueled his commitment to football. Described as a big-time locker room guy by Texas staff, Sorrell's work ethic and selflessness make him a perfect fit for Green Bay's culture. His emotional draft day press conference, where he tearfully thanked his family, resonated with fans and team brass alike. It was so damn cool sitting in that bowl at Lambeau watching them announce that pick. That was just, I will forever remember. That'd be probably one of my favorite draft moments of all time, Emilio. You were in there too. How cool was that? If this dude blows up, and listen, he's a 4th-round pick, he could be a bust. This could be a feel-good story that we never get to really, truly celebrate, right? Mm-hmm. But if he blows up and his game goes to the next level at the NFL level, bro, how fun is it going to be root for this dude, man?
Yeah, with a jersey number 99, right?
Dude, that's so dope.
He's just gonna eat just because of that, right? He's just gonna go to town. But you're right, the fact that we got 2, normally teams only get one walk across the stage unless you trade back in. And the fact that we had 2 of them, one later, like, and still thousands, hundreds of thousands of fans there, whatever it was that 3rd day, dude was just as excited. The fans were just as excited. And yeah, just incredible that, we ended up bringing him here.
Yeah. What do you think about him so far, Jacob?
Yeah, I absolutely love it. Love the pick. Love the way that he stayed there. Like you guys talked about, watching him. Oh, dude, I was listening to Ryan's podcast today. I'm at work, and I usually have an earbud in, and I'll bop around. I'm mopping. I'm trying to, I get down with the real people. I was mopping, and I'm out on the floor.
You hearing this, Emilio?
I'm shooting. I'm talking to the old ladies. I'm chumming it up, and all of a sudden, I'm listening to Ryan in the background, and he gets into Sorrell's press conference, and it's just going through, and he gets into the part where he breaks down.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, I start listening really intently as I'm watching. I had to run into the freaking break room because I'm like, just got something in both of my eyes. Like I was really freaking. I didn't watch. I've watched many clips, but I don't think I ever watched it all the way through of him trying to get through just naming his family and his friends and how his agent was like basically another extended family member. It was, dude. If you don't root for that guy, you got a cold, dead heart.
Yeah,
seriously.
Professor Cake says, how did so many scouts overlook Sorrell? I don't get how a super athletic SEC pass rusher fell all the way down to the end of day 2. That's something that Ryan said too, I believe, on that same pod, was like, everybody was looking around going, how is he still here? Like, thank God he was.
Wasn't there like 2? There was at least 2, I'm pretty sure, Texas D linemen taken before him,
well,
right?
I was just going to say, I think he's a product of like, the year before, the 2 big guys went. Then this year they had Vernon Broughton. They had 2 or 3 other people that got drafted on that defensive line. I think that maybe he was the diamond in the rough that got lost in the shuffle. And a lot of people's
right?
Alfred Collins. Yep. And there was another, I thought, opposite edge or interior. Vernon Broughton, I know, was another one that went. So, I just Jesus, I just think that he really does have the ability to really make a difference, and quickly too, because what I saw a lot with him, when you put his response to being drafted next to Rashawn Gary's, holy crap, like it was shocking how similar they were. They thanked their family. They had an emotional breakdown. They were so excited just to be drafted by this organization. We're hard to get ready, get to work. And I think that they both of them felt like they were a little bit underrated and weren't allowed to show what they could do in college. You know what I mean? They didn't show their actual their true athletic and freak ability.
Yeah, Dave Fish said day 2 wasn't he early day 3. I think that's what Professor Cakes was saying, was how did he make it through the end of day 2?
Right.
You would expect him to go in day 2, I would imagine. So draft projection, selected at 124 overall. Sorrell was considered a steal by analysts, with many assigning him a top 100 grade due to his athletic profile and production. In a deep edge rusher class, his 4th-round selection reflects the Packers' knack for finding value, as noted by Acme Packing Company, which dubbed him their best value pick. Sorrell's consensus projection was round 3 to 4, with NFL.com's Lance Zierlein grading him as a future average starter. His athletic comps to Pro Bowlers like Danielle Hunter and Trey Hendrickson, well, that's a pretty good comp right there, suggests a high ceiling if he develops further. Sorrell's draft day presence in Green Bay, where he awaited in the green room uninvited, added a storybook element to his selection, culminating in a memorable "Go Pack Go" chant from the fans. All right, so here's what Dane Brugler had to say. 3-year starter at Texas. Sorrell lined up primarily on the edge, 5 to 6 tech. That's what I noticed a lot of was 5 to 7 tech. And defensive coordinator Pete Kwiatkowski, I think, front. A dependable player over his 40 starts in Austin. He showed gradual improvement each season and didn't receive enough credit in 24 for his impact on Texas's third-ranked defense. As a pass rusher, Sorrell flashes bully hands and an aggressive snatch attack, which became his signature move. So they call that snatch. I call that the punch and pull, where he'll literally hit somebody in the chest, grab their jersey, and pull them down.
Right.
And we call it a punch, pull, rip, because typically they'll punch, pull, and then they'll rip up. Now, I love the fact that when he does this snatch technique, right? Not that kind of snatch, Jacob. Get your head up. I see you over giggling like a unbelievable. So what I like about it is he does not complete the rip. And if you guys know in the NFL, if you do a rip move, the offensive line's allowed to hold. Okay, they're allowed to grab you. We've seen it all year last year with Rashawn Gary, right? So the fact that he punches, right, pulls, but he doesn't rip up, he just dips and goes under. If they hold him, that's going to be a hold. It's not a rip move, is the way I understand it. So I think that's important to note and understand there. So let's see here. Became his signature move, locking out and pulling the balance of blockers away from them. Led Texas with 49 pressures and 24, despite finishing 4th on the team in sacks. He is relentless in the run game, but he will lose contained against cutback runs and needs to play with better gear down to eliminate missed tackles in pursuit. Overall, Sorrell passes the eye test, and the foundation of his game is power. What does Greg Cosell say all the time, Emilio? Like, if you're going to play at the NFL level, you have to be able to play with power, rushing the quarterback.
Yeah, you absolutely need it to be able to play he said you can have moves, you can have this and that, but if you're not going to be able to beat him with power, or at least be able to come at him with power, any offensive lineman, even Ross Tucker was saying that. He was saying he's saying I could handle. If I got beat on the outside once or twice, I can handle that. I cannot stop if the dude is stronger than me. It's a lot harder to stop a power move.
Yeah, first step and beating you with power. Those are the two most important things, according to Ross Tucker. So, it says which sets up different ways for him to win. Although his average short area athleticism might limit the frequency of those wins against NFL blockers, his makeup and motor will give him a chance to carve out a role in a 4-3 scheme. So he had a 3rd to 4th round grade on him. Dane Brugler did. Strengths, sports, well-developed, NFL-ready frame with massive shoulders. NFL scout said, quote, I wouldn't own any shirts with sleeves if I looked like that dude. Works in the weight room to put on the freaks list. 425-pound bench press, 575-pound squat, 355 power clean. I'm not trying to diminish him. Those are unbelievable numbers. Savion Williams, our 3rd-round wide receiver, squats 600 pounds.
That's crazy.
That's nuts.
That's crazy.
Jacob said, could you imagine the cheeks on that guy? Posted fastest mile per hour at 15.13 in hoop drill at the combine. So, again, he ran 15 miles an hour in the hoop drill. So you look at the sometimes you look at the 40-yard dash, or you look at the 40-yard dash with wide receivers, and then you see them in the gauntlet like Puka Nacua, bad 40-yard dash. I think he was the fastest catching balls through the gauntlet when he came out. That mile per hour testing is really, really important.
Hey, real quick, just so we don't lose it. In the chat, they were having a weird little, not weird, but an interesting argument where they said they want to see Belton versus Sorrell. I believe Greg Rice brought it up. Greg Rice said that Belton had 20 reps, and then we obviously saw that Sorrell had 28 reps. And then you add in the fact that we're talking about an offensive lineman and a massive D end, and then our 3rd-round pick, Savion Williams, out squats. It's like, what, dude? That is pretty
Goody going to work. That's exactly what that is. It's Goody going to work, man.
Late night in the draft room with the lung dart, man. All right, where were we here? Physical, aggressive hands to deliver thunderbolts at contact. Love it. Maintains extension at contact, then disrupts blockers' balance to shed. Works in a variety of swipe rip moves when he attacks a blocker's edge. Keeps his hands tight to hold his ground in the run game. Quick thinking player to sniff out screens and chase them down. You've seen that all over the tape, by the way. Plays hard, motor doesn't run out of gas. High football character and viewed as a key leader in the Texas locker room. He was a team captain for 8 games in 24. Durable, didn't miss a game the past 3 seasons, finishing with 30 straight starts.
That's huge. I think when I heard that this morning from Ryan, that to me popped off the screen or the into my ears more than anything. Not missing a game in 3 years. That's pretty good, man.
Greg Cosell, this is his scouting report. We'll just hit the strengths and we'll keep it moving here. Showed some refinement as an edge pass rusher with multiple hand techniques to attack and defeat offensive tackle pass sets. Flash snaps of speed to power as edge pass rusher when he had room and could generate some velocity. Pass rush snaps from the 5 technique alignment in which he showed he could work half a man and clear the edge. Snaps of speed to power conversion with strong hand strikes versus offensive guard when aligned inside as a pass rusher. I seen one time he was playing 3 tech, which got me really, really excited there. Love to see that in the NASCAR package. Run game snaps, he showed the lateral quickness to play off initial contact and make plays outside of the box, consistently controlled and dominated tight end in the run game, physically dominated them at the point of attack to make plays, outstanding playing personality, high effort, high energy with competitiveness and aggression, snap after snap. All right. So here's what his coach had to say. Okay. This is from Barryn Sorrell's coach, Pete Kwiatkowski. Said, quote, "I saw him finally get picked and I thought it was awesome." He expressed his excitement watching Sorrell get drafted by the Packers, noting his enthusiasm for the moment and Sorrell's joy, which aligned with his family's supportive nature. Another quote from him was, "Because he's already a professional as far as he's going to show up, he's going to be on time, he's going to put in the work, he's going to work away from the facility when the coaches can't work with him. He's going to take care of his body," is what he said about his professionalism. Another quote, "He's not going to get into any issues off the field. He's going to be great in the community, and the coaches are going to trust him, and he's going to be dependable." All right. Next, whether he makes a lot of plays in the stats, that's yet to be determined, but he'll do all the dirty work, and he'll definitely be a positive influence on game day and in the offseason and at practice. He's been a steady improvement every year. It wasn't like there's all of a sudden this aha moment. He just kept grinding and working on it. Another quote, started playing more physical, started playing faster as he learned the defense, eye control. So he's talking about playing with good eye control. And that's some of the issues you run into with like Kingsley Enagbare, right? Sometimes he'll just pin his ears back and go, and it's like he has no idea where the ball is. When you turn on the tape with Barryn Sorrell, you truly see him. It's like this high IQ, this high awareness, this play rec that he has that's just kind of ingrained in him. We had some strong personality D linemen when he was a freshman, sophomore, junior. They all went to the NFL, and he fit right into the leadership role last year. We had a lot of guys that were similar, but he's the guy who has his house in order, and there's never any drama with him. Like that's sign me up, man. Yep. So here's just a quick little breakdown of the fit with the Packers. Sorrell joins a pass rusher edge group led by Rashawn Gary with Lucas Van Ness, Kingsley Enagbare, and Brenton Cox Jr. You ever heard of him? Hey. Providing depth. Green Bay's pass rush, which tied for 7th in the NFL with 45 sacks in 2024, was inconsistent, with Gary's 7.5 sacks leading the team but lacking finishing ability. Sorrell's arrival adds competition and depth, particularly as a situational pass rusher who can spell Gary or Van Ness. His ruggedness and physicality, praised by Director of Football Operations Milt Hendrickson, align with Hafley's aggressive 4-3 scheme, which emphasizes attacking upfield. Sorrell's connection with Texas teammate Matthew Golden, drafted in the first round, fosters instant chemistry in the rookie class. His admiration for Gary, whom he studied in college, positions him as a sponge eager to learn from a Pro Bowler. Expects Sorrell to compete for snaps and sub packages, leveraging his quick first step and hand-fighting skills to pressure quarterbacks. His sturdy run defense ensures he won't be a liability, potentially earning him early downs if he outperforms expectations. One of the clips that Ryan played on his pod today about Sorrell was this dude can play all 3 downs, and that's really exciting there. So Outlook, as a rookie, Sorrell is unlikely to start but could see 10 to 20 snaps per game in rotational roles, particularly on passing downs. His special teams potential as an edge setter or pursuit player adds another avenue for playing time. Under defensive line coach Jason Rebrovich, Sorrell will focus. So that's wrong there. They get that wrong with Jason Rebrovich. Who's the new defensive line coach? What's his name? From New England, right?
Yes.
So Reb's out completely, right? He's the guy that can. So, God, what's his name? We talked about him. I need to do a write-up on
Somebody
him.
in the chat will have it.
Tim would know. Tim would
Tim
know
would
if he
know.
was here. Thanks a lot, Tim.
Yeah. Thanks a lot for taking care of your marriage tonight, Tim. Covington.
Yeah,
There you go.
dude.
Thank you, Jesse. Coach
Hey,
Covington.
yep, there you go.
That's who that was supposed to be typo there. Training camp battles against Green Bay's revamped offensive line, including second-round pick Anthony Belton, will test his readiness to what we were just talking about. Packer fans should be thrilled about Sorrell's blend of athleticism, intangibles, and draft day narrative. As general manager Brian Gutekunst stated, quote, "We've wanted guys who play with passion and fit our culture. Barryn checks every box. With the potential to become a double-digit sack artist like his athletic comps, Sorrell could emerge as a steal if he maximizes his traits. Keep an eye on his preseason performances, where his motor and leadership could earn him a larger role than expected." I know you got a couple things marked in there in the chat, Jacob. Let's hit them real quick, man, before we wrap up.
Yeah, just real quick, just pertinent to this conversation. Greg Rice says, "Well, who's on the bubble in that edge room?" So right off the top, is
Brenton
that
Cox Jr.
You shut your mouth. You don't you dare. You don't say that. To me it'd be Aaron Mosby, right? And then who was the other guy that was really showing some promise? Man, I can't remember. But typically, don't we go in with it at least 5, if not 6 edge or slash D ends?
When it comes to edge defenders, I like the number 5 personally, but it all depends on how many you can stash on the practice squad, right, Emilio? Like that you may carry 7 if you're convinced these guys are going to get scooped up off the practice squad, right?
Yep. And that's it. And then you got to think your what you would think probably 90% of your draft picks are going to make the roster. 70 to 90% of the draft picks would make that, and so then you really are running down to just a couple of spots available. I think that you put the wide receiver room on notice. I think you put the D-line room a little bit on notice, and you're going to get your best out of LVN, definitely Rashawn, and that's going to kind of answer some questions for you leading into next year when you got to do something with LVN, right? So
I know what he's saying here because I forgot. So also just a fun or a random tidbit. It'd be fun to because this morning I was looking at the ESPN depth chart / roster, and it'd be interesting to look at what ESPN is projecting as our depth chart right now. Just because it's interesting just to see who would cut, who, like he said, who's on the bubble. But when we think about it here, so we talk about it's Lucas Van Ness, Gary, Kingsley, Barryn Sorrell, obviously, and then my man Brenton Cox Jr. But then I forgot that we got Colin Oliver also in the mix, who we drafted. Who he's a tweener though. Like, could we consider him in that linebacker room? But somebody who could, and a good tweener. Usually you don't like that because it's like we don't know where to put him. But with this, it's like if we can slip him as a linebacker, maybe like our 4th, 5th string linebacker that can also have reps on the defensive line as an edge. That's a sneaky thing. And then it was, Desmond Alexander, which, he flashed. But I think Aaron Mosby would be the one that'd be on the bubble, in my opinion.
That would be, yeah. I completely agree with what Ron Sanville says there, that it would be Mosby. So let's think about it here. Both the draft picks are going to make the roster. Hands down, they'll be on the 53, right? So then that's 2. Then you got Rashawn Gary and LVN, right? That's 4. Kingsley Nigbare, Brenton Cox Jr., right? So that's 6 now.
Yeah. Next
would be Mosby.
Yep.
I don't think he'll make it. So I think you got to carry 6, man. I think you got to.
Yeah, and then that also leads a question is how many linebackers do you carry? Because right now you got obviously Quay Walker, that's a lock. Edge Cooper, Isaiah, that's a lock. Hopper, you'd think that's a lock. We just signed Simmons. We have Christian Welch. And if Colin Oliver is going to slip into one or the other category, that's a freaking lot of linebackers.
Yeah, it is.
So I think that obviously Christian Welch and Simmons would be on the block there, but
I think it would be interesting too with, like you say, Colin Oliver, if he can play a little hybrid backer, that's going to increase his value, and maybe you can carry. Let's look at the linebacker room, and we need to look at the depth chart, like you said, soon. We need to do an episode, just a full depth chart breakdown now that the draft's over. We can use our lads and ESPN. I think they both do a good job year round, kind of keeping it up to date. Yeah, so you got Quay Walker, Edgerrin Cooper, Isaiah McDuffie, Tyron Hopper. Tyron Hopper's a 3rd-round pick. He ain't going nowhere, right?
Yeah.
So that's 4 backers. You just signed Isaiah Simmons, but Isaiah Simmons is kind of that hybrid. He can play safety too. He's going to be a special teams ace, I would imagine, taking Eric Wilson's spot. So that's 5, right? So if you carry 5 backers where you normally would probably carry 6, yeah, that's probably where you make it up there. You just carry 5 sack backers, and Colin Oliver can be that 6th in a pinch type thing. Probably makes the most sense. So.
Did Isaiah Simmons get the minimum?
I still haven't heard. We could check that tomorrow too if you want. Let me make a note here. Isaiah
Just
Simmons.
because that if he just got the minimum, would that be like a wide receiver like McCole Harbin type thing? If you're not going to make it, it's not the worst thing that's happened. We tried it, brought him in, didn't work out. Right.
That could be the case, but I really think they plan on keeping Isaiah Simmons just because of the special teams value there.
Right. That's true.
Because didn't he have like an 88 special teams grade or something?
Yeah.
It was very good. Yeah.
So, and that makes me feel a lot better about the Eric Wilson departure for sure. So, Miko Harbin too. The other thing, hearing all these interviews, both Savion Williams and Matthew Golden, they said, did anybody reach out to you? Multiple people reached out to Matthew Golden, but both Matthew Golden and Savion Williams mentioned Miko Hardman reached out to them. I thought that was cool.
That's
that
awesome.
Just the early signs are like he's going to be a good teammate. So United Bates seems like we do have the numbers. So there it is, 1.3 million with 167,000 guaranteed. So that's cuttable. But 167 grand's a good little chunk of change. I think they would like to have him on the roster, I would imagine.
Yeah.
And that's the thing I want to say about Isaiah Simmons. Listen, he hasn't been good. Don't get me wrong. If he had been a 5th-round pick with a special teams grade like that, people would be going, man, that was great value there. But he was the 8th overall pick, so he's always going to be kind of viewed as a bust, right?
Yeah.
And the fact that this is his 3rd team, I'm not expecting him to be an all-world linebacker / safety. And I think he fits more in a linebacker room than he does a safety room, me personally. But doesn't hurt to have that kind of athleticism and depth, someone that can cover the seam if you need him to. So
Absolutely.
You got anything else, Emilio?
No, speed of the defense is based on your linebackers. I think that we've done a lot to try to enhance that. And I really am excited to see Hopper get out there. Like Quay, Coop, all of them kind of together. Hopefully we get Quay's deal done before the season and just, you walk in there ready to roll. Like we talked about, when Jordan got paid, you walk in there after you've been paid, it's game time. So I'm excited to see it.
Yeah.
What about you, Jacob? Anything else, man?
No, I think the biggest takeaway I have is I'm just really excited to see Barryn Sorrell come in there and absolutely gel with this defensive line, specifically with Gary. He actually mentioned Gary in his press conference of a player that he idolized and who he wanted to take his game after. And he said he was really excited to actually meet him face to face and get to work. And like I said, I saw unbelievable comparisons between the two of them, both in their play style, demeanor, and the way that they got emotional when they were finally given that chance to change their families' lives. So I think that he's one of those players that's not going to take it for granted. I think we're going to see an absolute freak. Even if he is 10 to 20 snaps, I think he's going to make the most of those.
I'm excited about this class. I haven't been, last year I was excited, but not like this. This, I don't know, something feels special about this group. It really does. And Matthew Golden, I think Savion Williams is going to be one of those players that it's going to halfway through the season, we're going to go, oh, this dude's getting it. Matthew Golden, day one, I expect him to be out there and making things happen. I just can't wait till he takes the top off the damn defense the first time where people go, oh, that's what he can do when a quarterback can throw it more than 30 yards down the field. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, exactly.
I'd like to have him. I'd like to see him get overthrown, once or twice.
Yes.
Like, okay, let's.
Go ahead, Jordan. Try it.
Yeah,
absolutely. Because everything I seen, he was having to pull up, and it wasn't just like pulling up at the end. It was like as soon as the ball left the quarterback's hand, you could see him kind of, taper it back.
Sort of get into position, get over tops, kind of stack the guy, get in front of him, and then pick your spot.
Yeah, which is a great thing to have. That's something that I feel like we've been missing here lately. As much as I love Christian Watson and that frame and the elite speed and everything, it took him a while to get to where he could high point that ball and really time it up. And I still think watching Golden's tape in college and watching Christian Watson's tape this year, I feel like Golden tracks the ball better than Watson. And I love Christian Watson. I'm just saying that's Golden's strength. Watson's strength is that he's a freak. He's just one of those tall, fast, crazy vertical jump type guys. Yeah. So, all right, that's it, guys. We're going to get out of here tomorrow. Also, best way to support the show, Patreon group, patreon.com/PackerFan Total Access, or scan the QR code in the upper right there. $3 get you access to everything on the site. It's absolutely blowing up. We're going to continue to pump out content on there. Chalk Talks, all that stuff's going to be up there. Tomorrow going to be a little bit different, okay? We got dinner tomorrow night. So the plan is to do an afternoon show, if at all possible, okay? So I don't know. Jacob, are you working tomorrow?
I can not work when we're doing an afternoon show for sure. Yeah.
Okay. What time would be best for you in the afternoon, do you feel like?
Anytime afternoon, man.
That is the afternoon. So let's do how about we do 2 p.m. Central, 3 p.m. Eastern. Would that work? 2 p.m. Central? Is that cool?
Yes.
That's afternoon.
Deal. It is.
This is
2 hours.
Will you be awake by now? I know you got
Like 2, that's gonna be close. I don't know.
You know what it immediately made me think of is, do you remember, and I won't say what he actually said, but was it Paul Mooney on the show? I'm going to start calling it Good Morning Mexican America. He said the show will air at noon. I tell you, Paul Mooney's the man. God, he's so good. That delivery is just so dry. But anyway, so we'll do that. We're going to go 3 p.m. Eastern, 2 p.m. Central tomorrow.
Perfect.
And and Emilio won't be here. That's why he says it's perfect. So
absolutely.
Yeah.
We're hitting the Brazilian steakhouse tomorrow night, boys.
Oh, which one? Rodizio?
Rodizio?
Yeah, you never heard of that one?
This is called Rio, sir.
Oh, okay.
Rio.
How dare you?
Exactly.
Right. Sorry. Jeez.
So yeah, it's gonna be a good time. I haven't been over there in a while, so I'm gonna go stuff my face.
Get
probably
ready to
throw up
go.
in the bathroom, go back in for seconds. So that's the way it works. All right. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with us. We'll see y'all tomorrow, 2 p.m. Central. We'll end the show with Savion Williams Chalk Talk. Okay, that's what we'll
on Rumble. That's where we go. Holmes, I saw you at the chat last time. That stream ended. We all went over to Rumble to watch the.
Holmes, you caught some strays from Emilio. He said,
I was like, Holmes, we said it 3 times, my man. We were going to Rumble.
We said we're going to be going to Rumble in a minute. Okay, so y'all be prepared to jump over there for Chalk Talk. We talked for 10 more minutes ago. Okay, guys, we're going to Rumble. All right, we'll see y'all over there. And then
Holmes said, "Where'd everybody go?"
You gotta just start saying, "We're going to fucking Rumble." All right.
And it's going to stay live on X, but we will kick off on YouTube. We will be on YouTube, so be prepared for that. We want to give you guys enough content, and then we'll hop over there and do the Chalk Talk. So a lot of stuff to cover tomorrow. It's going to be fun. So appreciate y'all. Everybody have a great night. Y'all stay safe out there. As always, let's go out and be the change we want to see in the world. Don't be weird like that guy in the upper right. And go Pack, go.
There we go.
Bye, guys.